War is often portrayed as a purely political or military phenomenon, but its economic dimensions are both profound and enduring. From the ancient empires of Rome to the modern-day conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, war has functioned as both a destroyer and a creator of economic systems. In this video, we will dive deep into the historical economics of war, exploring how conflicts have historically reshaped labor markets, spurred industrial revolutions, altered global trade flows, and redefined the role of the state in the economy. War acts as an exogenous economic shock, disrupting normal market operations through the destruction of capital, displacement of labor, and reallocation of resources. But unlike natural disasters, wars are human-driven and often strategic in their intent. In classical economic theory, war is considered a deviation from equilibrium. Yet, history shows us that in many cases, war sets the stage for new forms of economic equilibrium, sometimes even prosperity, by restructuring societies and institutions in ways that peacetime politics rarely allow. In the pre-industrial world, wars were primarily fought over land, tribute, and trade routes. The economic objective was straightforward: to acquire wealth through conquest. For example, during the Roman Empire, military expansion funded itself. The sacking of enemy territories provided not only plunder but also slaves, who became integral to the Roman economy. Likewise, the Mongol invasions of the 13th century, while devastating in human cost, opened up trade along the Silk Road, increasing economic integration between East and West for a period. By the 16th and 17th centuries, the rise of mercantilism reframed war as a means of securing favorable trade balances and colonial possessions. Nations like Spain, Portugal, France, and England engaged in near-constant warfare, often bankrolled by burgeoning national treasuries and supported by the taxation of expanding colonies. These wars necessitated stronger centralized states capable of collecting taxes, issuing debt, and maintaining standing armies. The economist Charles Tilly famously argued that war made the state, and the state made war, highlighting the feedback loop between military conflict and bureaucratic development. The Industrial Revolution brought a profound transformation in the economics of war. Industrial capacity became the backbone of military power. Conflicts such as the Crimean War and the American Civil War foreshadowed this change. But it was the First and Second World Wars that fully realized the model of total war, where entire economies, not just armies, were mobilized for conflict. Governments took control of production, rationed consumer goods, and redirected labor to essential industries. The United States War Production Board during the Second World War coordinated massive industrial output, while the Soviet Union's centrally planned economy allowed it to shift resources rapidly toward the war effort, albeit at tremendous human cost. Financing war has always been a central challenge. States have historically resorted to a mix of taxation, borrowing, and inflation. During the Napoleonic Wars, the United Kingdom pioneered modern financial instruments such as war bonds and expanded the role of the Bank of England. In contrast, less financially stable regimes, like the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War, relied heavily on printing currency, which led to hyperinflation. This pattern repeated itself in 20th century conflicts. Hyperinflation in Weimar Germany after the First World War, for example, contributed directly to political instability and the eventual rise of the Nazi regime. Paradoxically, post-war periods often coincide with economic booms. The aftermath of the Second World War is a striking example. The destruction wrought across Europe and Asia created the conditions for the United States to become the global economic hegemon. The Marshall Plan, a massive American aid program, helped rebuild Western Europe and integrate its economies. Meanwhile, War-ravaged countries like Germany and Japan adopted new economic models focused on export-led growth, which ultimately transformed them into industrial powerhouses. Post-war reconstruction thus served as both an economic stimulus and a mechanism for reshaping global trade and alliances. One of the enduring economic legacies of the 20th century is the institutionalization of the military-industrial complex. First articulated by United States President Dwight Eisenhower, the term refers to the mutually reinforcing relationship between a country's armed forces, its defense contractors, and its political leadership. This complex has profound implications for public spending, technological innovation, and democratic accountability. For instance, wartime innovations like radar, jet engines, and the Internet all originated from military research and development. However, the long-term economic risks include inefficient allocation of resources and the crowding out of civilian infrastructure investment. In the 21st century, the economic dynamics of war have become more asymmetric and complex. Modern conflicts are less about traditional state-on-state warfare and more about insurgencies, cyber warfare, and economic sanctions. For example, the United States invasion of Iraq cost over $2 trillion, with long-term costs such as veterans' health care projected to rise for decades. At the same time, resource wars, such as those over oil and rare earth minerals, have become more covert yet economically consequential. Sanctions themselves have become a form of economic warfare, as seen in the cases of Iran, North Korea, and most recently Russia. These economic tools aim to erode an adversary's capacity to wage war without firing a single shot. In conclusion, the relationship between war and economics is deeply intertwined and bidirectional. War disrupts economies, but it also catalyzes innovation, restructures industries, and even prompts the expansion of the welfare state in some instances. Yet, the long-term consequences are rarely equitable. While some nations emerge stronger and wealthier, others are left with decimated infrastructure, brain drain, and cycles of poverty and dependence. Understanding the economic history of war not only sheds light on the past, but also helps us navigate the complexities of current and future conflicts. In a world where the boundaries between economic and military power are increasingly blurred, economic literacy is more essential than ever.